From the unnecessary extension of a show that has run its course, to the nonsensical and uneven pacing of episodes, Doctor Who needs to end. Here's why. For starters, the show has been going on for a painfully long time. The long-running series began in 1963 and has been on air for over 50 years. You heard that right, 50 years. That makes up 2 entire generations. Every story has a beginning, middle, and end, but Doctor Who simply refuses to draw the curtains. Instead, it chooses to continue indefinitely. With 871 episodes so far, it shows no signs of slowing down. While devoted fans of the show may argue that Doctor Who has stood the test of time, others believe that the TARDIS has overstayed its welcome, and that it's probably time for it to make its final journey. I mean, we all need some sort of closure, don't we? Every time it seems like the show might come to a close, the writers make random changes in an attempt to cover for the obvious creative exhaustion. Instead of brining in new refreshing elements, these revisions end up making zero sense. Like the time, they completely ignored the fact that Doctor Who was only ever meant to have a total of 13 incarnations. Or when they turned the Master into the Missy and strayed too far from the established canon of the character. And let's not forget about the time they revealed that Doctor Who is not actually a Time Lord from Gallifrey. Apparently, he's actually an immortal being known as the Timeless Child, who is experimented on by an unknown alien race. Geez, can someone please tell the writers of the show that they are beating a dead horse? But that's not where the insanity ends. Things have gotten to the point where, even by their own standards, the show has failed to keep its story straight. For instance, in the 2021 Doctor Who holiday special, Eve of the Daleks, David Tennant made a surprise appearance as the 10th Doctor. This would have been fine, had it not been for the fact that his character had previously regenerated into the 11th Doctor, played by Matt Smith, in the show's canon. Yep, that's right. They defied the laws of their own show. Even though he had used up all his regenerations, David Tennant's 10th Doctor somehow magically made his way in the holiday special. And get this, the writers later suggested that his appearance was actually only a projection created by the TARDIS. I mean, come on. While this explanation may have satisfied some fans, many were furious over the show using such a narrative loophole and not sticking to its established rules. After all, the writers of Doctor Who didn't just lose the plot, they abandoned it in a ditch to rot for eternity. What makes things even worse is the fact that the show still seems to be predictable and bland in many ways. The show's recent seasons have become too reliant on certain narrative devices. For example, we constantly see recurring villains like the Daleks or the Cybermen. The iconic foes have been featured in countless episodes. Naturally, many viewers have grown tired of their constant appearances. Similarly, the show has also overused the Base Under Siege storyline. This usually depicts the Doctor and their companions are trapped in a confined space and must fight off a threat. It has started to feel like there is a focus on changing all of the stuff that doesn't matter and fixing none of the stuff that does. Leave it to the writers of Doctor Who to somehow manage to be very inconsistent and totally unchanging at the same time. And it's clear that the Whovians aren't liking the way things have been going. Both viewership and ratings have been on a steady decline in recent years. According to ratings data, Season 12 of Doctor Who, which aired in 2020, saw an average audience of around 5 million viewers per episode. Now don't get me wrong, this is a respectable number, but it shows that the series has gone down from a peak of over 12 million viewers in the show's heyday. It is clear that the staple British TV show is losing its appeal fast. While some fans wait for a day in which Doctor Who will manage to recapture its glory and win back viewers, others aren't as hopeful. Keep in mind, the show is facing competition from newer, fresher, and frankly better streaming series. These shows might be drawing viewers away from Doctor Who. I mean, with so many options available today at the press of a button, it is likely that ex-fans of the series are spending their time on other shows. Sadly, there might not be much the writers could do to save the beloved sci-fi series. One thing the writers could work on, however, is some of Doctor Who's problematic depictions of certain groups. The show hasn't done the greatest of jobs when it comes to representing diverse voices. In particular, there have been complaints about the show's use of white savior narratives. In the episode Thin Ice from Season 10, the Doctor rescues a group of street children that are being forced to steal by a wealthy businessman named Lord Sutcliffe. Many of these children are people of color. The episode was criticized for presenting a story in which the Doctor becomes the white savior who rescues the oppressed people of color. On top of this, the series tends to show some cultures in a way that stereotypes them as exotic or primitive. In The Rings of Akhaten, the episode takes place on a planet that is heavily inspired by a mix of non-Western cultures. Viewers noticed several cliché representations, from the use of oud and ululation for music to the mishmash of cultural references, including Hinduism and Greek mythology. In the Doctor's speech to the aliens, there was so much that was wrong. Viewers and critics called out the episode for its cultural insensitivity. Not the best look for Doctor Who, if you ask me. Similarly, the show has also faced backlash for its shallow depiction of women. Although there are many strong female characters that can be found in the series, many of them are often objectified. The moment the Master turns into the Mistress, the character becomes a lady whose dialogues and actions are full of suggestive innuendos. Yikes. The writers also can't seem to get tired of the damsel in distress trope in which female characters are portrayed as helpless and in need of rescue. Guys, it's 2023. We're still dealing with this. On one hand, viewers saw the casting of Jodie Whittaker as the first female Doctor in 2017 as a step in the right direction. On the other hand, some believed that the move aimed to shield the show from criticism on its problematic takes. For many, it only added to the sentiment that the show was losing its originality. As a whole, the show has seriously stopped feeling like it used to. Believe it or not, the show initially began in the 60s as an educational program. You heard that right. Doctor Who was aimed to be an educational series. The British TV show explored topics such as science fiction or historical events. From medieval history to genetic biology, viewers were constantly learning something new. That's what made it so special and dear to the Doctor Who fandom. Doctor Who was slowly and carefully nurtured by the writers of the time. Now, it is only a piping hot mess where drama is constantly the center of attention. It no longer felt like the viewers were being told a million remarkable stories. Instead, they were being fed one big, self-obsessed master narrative. One that isn't aiming to bring new and interesting information to its viewers, but is only focused on telling the craziest and most fantastical of tales. Stephen Moffat's contributions to the show have been particularly controversial. The uneven pacing of episodes was one of his biggest criticisms. Since his involvement in the series, Doctor Who has followed a pattern in which episodes move at an extremely unsteady speed. Due to this, some episodes seem rushed and at times even underdeveloped in some areas, while other episodes drag on for way too long. And that's not all. In similar fashion, whenever an intriguing plot thread or emotional subplot is introduced, it is almost immediately abandoned or resolved. This is usually done in an unsatisfying manner that leaves the viewers puzzled. The two-part episode The Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone clearly depicts this problem. Though the introduction of the Weeping Angels was appreciated, the episode struggled to balance the demands of the plot with the needs of the characters. This unsteady approach leaves little room for important details such as character development and emotional depth. Due to such issues, the writers have made watching the show even more burdensome for the little loyal Whovians that remain. Whether the beloved sci-fi series will manage to bring its best game up is still a question that has to be answered. As harsh as it may sound, the best bet the producers of the show have for pleasing their fans is ending the show as soon as possible. Otherwise, by the time the show reaches its 637th season and comes to its planned close, there might not be any Whovians left to celebrate its end. From the nonsensical and uneven pacing of episodes, to the unnecessary extension of a show that has run its course, that was why Doctor Who needs to end.